I'm the Doctor.
And I'm Henry.
I'm Zachariah.
I'm Adam.
And this is Geek Talk.
Hey guys, did you hear what's happening this weekend?
What's happening this weekend?
What?
The Doctor Who 50th anniversary is happening this weekend.
Oh, yeah.
Here's the thing, Adam. I'm more of a kind of like Star Trek guy myself, so I think I'm just going to go hang myself.
I might eat your face off at this point.
Do it, please.
I might.
Eat
Yeah.
my Captain Picard slash
the clock is
Kirk
ticking.
mask.
It's coming. Yes. Yep.
That's
All right.
smart.
Yeah.
I knew we kept him around for a week.
So yeah, we the countdown is officially begun for this week. Slowly but surely, they released that documentary about the first Doctor, how the Doctor Who started. Did you watch that yet?
No, I don't have.
I've been wanting to watch it, but there was a documentary on Doctor Who, with this thing.
That's exciting.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm probably gonna give it a watch later, but I'm almost done with the seasons.
Hey, can I ask a quantitative question for you guys?
Yes.
I haven't been incredibly up to date, but what time is this going to be on BBC America?
7:30.
I don't know.
that-
I'm not watching it on TV. I'm waiting to see it in theaters.
Because
on
I'm not
Monday.
going to pay $15.
You don't have to. It's coming on separate days. What they're doing in America is on Saturday they're having
Big cities get it Saturday.
Yeah, so like Chicago, New York,
Los Angeles.
Philadelphia.
yeah,
Detroit.
They're getting it simultaneous.
simulcasted.
Yeah, simulcasted.
Oh, cool.
And then, it's also being played on TV. No commercials too. It'll be awesome.
Yeah.
How long?
And-
Do you know the runtime yet? Did they announce how long it's going to be running?
120 minutes.
All right.
And this is the 23rd.
This
Yes.
is the 23rd? Saturday.
Yeah. See, I'm going to be playing laser tag, I think, during that time period.
That's
so
sad.
I don't know what to do, and I'm really frustrated. And then my friends want to throw me a birthday party afterwards.
Get it off of iTunes. Sponsored by iTunes.
Henry's birthday's coming up, so let's wish him a happy birthday here on Geek Talk.
Buenas tardes, y tú. Buenas tardes, y tú.
Okay, that's enough. We're running out of time here.
We had a Cuban here, and he was singing to me. His name is Raul Castro. You may have heard of him.
Yeah, we're
looking for work.
talking about Cuba in our class, so.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's get back to Doctor Who. So everyone in the universe and every time and space is excited about the 50th anniversary special.
Yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
So for this week, we've been talking about this pick for a long, long time. Adam, I think, originally brought it up when he was birthed. He let a little fortune cookie and it said, "This pick of the week."
I did.
So this pick of the week is your favorite Doctor Who episode.
Yeah, and personally, the reason we waited is, one, to correspond with the 50th anniversary, and two, because I was actually watching the series. I still haven't finished and caught up, but I think I've watched enough to understand.
Where are you? Just curious.
I just watched the episode. I don't remember what it's called, but it's about that. It's like that Western episode in Town of Mercy.
Mercy.
Yeah.
Town called Mercy.
Yeah.
Town called Mercy.
Yeah. So
Mercer.
that's what I watched last night. I didn't really care for it.
Yeah.
All right, so who's starting this week?
Let's have Adam start.
Okay. So mine is kind of cheating.
Mm-hmm.
It's a two-parter. You guys all probably know what it is.
All right, let me throw this rule out here.
Yeah.
If it's a two-part, like if it's something that carries over into 2 episodes, it counts as 1 episode.
Okay. Cool.
So, let's throw that there.
There's no rules to this. If it's a Doctor Who episode, it's free game.
We're practically talking now story, if we put it that way. So our favorite Doctor Who story.
Well, I think it's a little broad.
So that's a little more broad, but I mean, like,
season 3 big story.
Yeah,
no.
we're talking about like episode wise. So
Okay.
all right, I just wanted to throw that out there.
All right. So then my favorite story / episode / whatever is season 3's human family of blood. I can't remember the name of the episode. I just had it in my head. The one where David Tennant becomes a human.
Oh,
That to me is that to me is the best episode of Doctor Who. I think.
Refresh my memory about this episode.
Okay, he's being followed through space and time by the family of blood. So he transfers his Time Lord identity into a fopwatch, and he becomes Professor Smith, and he works at a college in early 20th century Britain, and he just basically becomes a human. And the most interesting part about the episode to me is a tearjerker too, is near the end when he realizes that these stories that he'd been writing, these fantastical stories he'd been writing in a notebook, were true. He was and is the Doctor, and he had fallen in love, and he doesn't want to be the Doctor, because you really see the difference between how John Smith is such a more warmer personality. It's the first time you really realize how cold the Doctor really is.
Oh yeah.
And I think it was interesting. I think it was a great character study of the Doctor, and I think it's one of the few episodes that actually does that and does it well. And I'm a huge fan of it. So,
Henry?
Oh, okay. So I have 2 picks. They're not related, but they're most certainly my 2 favorite Doctor Who episodes. I'll just start with one and then I'll do the other one. The first one I'll mention is Water on Mars special.
Yeah.
Water on Mars special kills me.
Yeah.
It's so emotionally charged. It's so well contained in the special. It is at the top for concise, controlled story. It doesn't. Watching Water on Mars, it almost doesn't feel like Doctor Who in a lot of ways. It feels like some good science fiction. That's what I love about it. I love that it's also like frightening. It's a frightening episode. There's water monsters. They're just like the makeup work for that episode is on point. It is so cool.
Their mouths.
Exactly. And that's so creepy. And you got this great story and then just this tragic end that sets you up so well for the finale of the specials. For the David Tennant years. So that's my first pick, and I just love that episode. Like, tore me apart. Like, I was emotionally invested in that episode. The second episode that I want to pick also left me very emotionally torn and emotionally connected, and that's Vincent and the Doctor.
I was just going to say real quick, that was going to be my runner-up when we came back around. That is such a close one to me, too.
I'm a bit of a history nerd and an art nerd, so to have Vincent Van Gogh, or Van Gogh, if you're dumb, in that episode, people argue about the pronunciation sometimes. Like, in that episode was such good, and the performance was so good, and you felt so invested to this historical plot, and just the very end of that episode, where they show him all the work and the gallery in France of his work and how much people love it is just like you're so emotionally connected to that episode, and it is by far my favorite Matt Smith episode. So those are my 2 favorite picks for Doctor Who episodes.
And let me just say real quick about his choice. I mean, that is it. I think that we talked a few episodes about science fiction being a reflection and sort of hitting at the core of who we are as humanity. And I think that Van Gogh episode epitomizes that. It's a message to the audience. It's sort of saying, you're worth something, which is the soul of Doctor Who. So I love that episode too.
Yeah.
Decisions. I can't remember. What's the season finale with Tennant going away? What's the name of that episode?
End of Time.
End of Time.
End of Time, part 1 and 2.
I like that one, but try to remember that's a second. Would be my second choice. It was so emotional, and plus I was going through all these episodes very rapidly just to catch up, and I got through like David Tennant in less than 3 weeks, like a season a week. And it came to a point though I was so invested. It was very kind of depressing You know, just to see him go, and they were setting up for so much closure.
Mm-hmm.
You could definitely tell, and I thought that was great. But there's one that actually I really enjoyed. It was it's where he fights the master. The one where
With the
robot thing, whatever.
with the Utopia.
Yeah, Utopia. What's that one called? I
cannot recall, but I know exactly which one you're talking.
Yeah, I can't. For the life of me, I had this earlier, right before the episode, before we started. I had the name of it, but I like that episode.
That's a good episode.
The Master is such a compelling villain.
Yeah.
And the chemistry between Tennant and the actor that was playing the Master was very, very good. And I thought, yeah. But I haven't finished Series 6, so I mean 7, so I can't really say. I might have a new favorite by the time that's over. But
the Christmas special actually was probably my favorite Christmas special out of all of them for Series 7. I thought it was really well done. And one more quick thing I want to say too is that can I just have an honorable mention for the amazing not only debut episode, but the incredibly badass speech that Matt Smith does for his first episode of I Am the Doctor.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just that. Like, I was all depressed about Tennant. I'm like, I don't know if I like this guy, and he does that speech, and I'm like, okay. Personally, for me at least, I'm on board. I'm cool with this guy.
Here's one thing I noticed is none of us picked Blink.
Blink.
Yeah.
I think that Blink is in terms of writing, is a brilliant episode. I love the Weeping Angels as a villain. I think they're awesome, but it's one of those episodes I kind of watched once, but I've watched it maybe 2 times since, and it's not like the Family of Blood storyline that I've watched like a million times, or the Van Gogh one that when I feel like I could cry, I'll watch.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's not one that I kind of watch frequently personally.
Yeah.
I mean, the ones with the angels are pretty high up on my list, but I wouldn't choose them.
Yeah.
But yeah.
There are so many other ones too.
Asylum of the Daleks was a great episode, I thought.
I liked what is the one with the library? The first one you meet.
Silence in the Library. It has the Vashtu Narada.
Yeah, that episode's really cool too because that one you get emotionally. It's 2-parter. You get emotionally connected. It has like some good humor in it. I can never get over that. The skeleton guy who walks around and he's like, "Hey, who turned off the lights?" I love that, and it's the first one with the river, and it's really I really like that episode too. Silence Library.
And they were also setting up pretty much for the storyline in Series 6.
No, there's one other. Oh my God, I lost it. Oh Lord.
It's
gone.
I'll let you think. But I'll mention one. This would probably be number 3 on my list. Asylum of the Daleks.
Mm-hmm.
I love that episode. I thought the setup from the beginning on Skaro, where he's on Skaro. I didn't watch the webisode that they did.
You should. It sets it up a lot better.
Yeah, but I like how it's like so dark and grim. Nice start off for a season.
You know, one that unfortunately you've not seen yet that I loved. It goes to that awesome sci-fi element. It has that like almost cantina like scene at the beginning. Rings of Akaten.
Right. Yeah.
And the speech at the end. I showed you the clip of the speech at the end. It is one of the best speeches of all time. But that whole episode, I loved a lot. It's the most sci-fi one I think I've seen. So
before we move off this topic, I kind of want to. I was thinking about this when we were talking about episodes, and if I thought about it, I could probably come up with one. But least favorite Doctor Who episode that you were not on board for.
Do you mind if I start?
Yeah, sure, go for it.
The second episode with Matt Smith with the whale that was taking the New Britain along.
Yeah.
I felt like that one, especially with the high of the first episode, how well written that was, how cool that was, how cool the Doctor was. I just felt like it was really weak. That felt like kind of a mid-season episode, if any episode at all.
Yeah.
And it just coming off that high of the last episode, of that great triumphant end. I mean, he explored some things that were interesting. You know, he had that Tennant-like thing of near the end of the episode where he says, you know, I have to keep saving you. I have to kill the alien because it's my only option. And this is when his character transforms and kind of realizes, no, I can make a third option if I really try. Mm-hmm. Not everyone has to die all the time. Yeah. And so I like that transformation, but I did not like the episode itself. I didn't feel it was well written. It felt like a mess. It just wasn't good.
One, for me, is Demon Drone.
The what?
Demon's Run.
Demon's Run? I like Demon's Run.
I liked it, but I think I found it a little confusing. Maybe it's because I'm going through these episodes like rapid fire, but I think they were building up to Demon's Run for so long. I felt like it was very underwhelming for what it was.
I've personally liked the idea that he was calling on literally all of his allies, Strax.
I mean, the beginning,
Solarian.
I think it started off very, very well. But I think about like halfway, I think it kind of started. It just
became muddled.
I think it became muddled.
The ending was strong. I felt the beginning was strong, but the middle.
The middle.
Muddled.
Yeah, that's why it's not one of my favorite episodes. I mean, it's a decent episode. Now, I won't mind watching it a second time, but that's just my choice.
That really dumb one with Queen Victoria, the werewolves, and the Kung Fu monks.
Oh, yeah. I forgot about that.
Second series.
Scratch that. That one's probably my least favorite.
And you know what's really interesting? When I first started watching Doctor Who, I watched them completely out of order, which I do not advise. It's just I didn't know that it was. I didn't know it was that kind of show, and then it was just whatever my mom got out of the library for me. So I would watch them as she got them. Some of them were checked out, some of them checked in. So to be completely honest, with the exception of the Matt Smith episodes, I watched Christopher Eccleston last.
Really?
Which is really, really strange, yeah. With the exception of the Tenet final, which was I watched that and then I watched Matt Smith. It was a very, very strange way to watch it. Don't recommend it, but I tried to make sense in my head because I've done it before for other like Star Trek and Stargate, so I'm a pro of that by now.
I also didn't care for a town named called Mercy.
And yes, you mentioned that. And
sorry, I forget.
Yeah. The thing that really shocked me about Doctor Who was I watched the episode before the werewolf one with Queen Victoria and the Kung Fu monks, and it was the one where they're on the medical planet. They come back to it. New York. Yeah. Which is an episode I really liked. To be honest, I've watched it, and I love the fact that they came back to it later on. But I watched what really got me really feeling weird about Doctor Who is just like next time on Doctor Who or whatever they do, and it's just like all this weird shit happens, and that's the one that always sticks in my head. And he's just like David Tennant's like Queen Victoria, and then there's like a werewolf, and then there's monks, and I'm like. How can this be good? And they've never stopped doing that. It's always like the next episode, like preview is always so like scatterbrained and weird. It always just like, how can this be good? And then a lot of times it's great. But that has always thrown me off. And that werewolf one is the one where it was exactly as hammy as its little preview was.
Before I forget, I want to say one more episode I really, really enjoyed because it was Tennant's one of his earliest episodes, and I felt like it brought his character out a little bit more than other episodes did, was the Madame the Pompadour episode.
Yeah. I think that
it showed really good emotion, I thought.
Yeah, I thought that I liked that episode a lot. I think it showed, I do love Matt Smith's run. I like that he's kind of not gotten over, but he's starting to move past his scars from the Time War. But I think that there's that sort of sad bastard in me that likes the lonely god feel of the Tennant years. He doesn't, and I kind of miss this part of the show. I wish they'd do this more, where he doesn't win all the battles. In fact, he loses most of them. Sometimes the choice is really, do I pick 4 humans or 100 Ood? I mean, it's never a good choice sometimes. And I liked that about Doctor Who, and I thought that was it's considered a kid's show. I thought that was an important thing to teach, because sometimes you can try your hardest and you can help, but it's not necessarily always good and bad. Sometimes it's a little gray, and I like that.
And the reason I say I like that episode more so is because at that point, I wasn't really much of a big fan of Doctor Who, and it was starting to grow on me, but it didn't really, really grow on me until the Pompadour episode, I think.
Well, I mean, the charisma of the Doctor really shows in that episode, I think.
Yeah, I think that's what... I mean, I liked David Tennant in the previous episodes, but it just... I didn't really care for it so much. But that's the episode that really sold me on this show. But, yeah.
So...
Speaking of... I don't know. You want to move on to the next topic? Because I'm not sure how we can do...
Number 4.
Number 4, yeah.
Oh,
Okay.
well, that's easy enough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, we were talking about what's always shocked me about Doctor Who. Really, is that it's marketed to like kind of like kids, but it also has so many adult themes, and that's why we can watch it and appreciate it. Really, it's not My Little Pony because grown men don't watch that. So I think
bronies.
I know it was a bad joke. We wanted to talk a little bit about the movie rating system. There was a thing released recently about Raiders of the Lost Ark, and the part where they open the Ark and people's heads explode, and apparently they covered up with fire, and that got them the PG-13 rating from the R rating.
Well, here's what happened is that it would have been rated R if they didn't cover up the exploding head with the fire. But it's kind of contradicting what the MPAA did in that movie as well, because melting faces were fine, but exploding faces with a ton of blood as well were not fine. It's the contradiction, I think, that really got people. And there's also another report that came out. But go ahead, Henry. I'll let you speak.
Well, I think maybe it might have something to do with the way they did the effects too, because it was always shocked me. And I'll point to the movie. You remember that, CGI movie Beowulf? How violent that movie was, if you've seen it, and it got a PG-13 rating. Like if that was real effects and that was real people, it would be PG-13. So maybe it has something to do with when they were melting. It was like claymation or something.
Personally, I see it. There's the famous Supreme Court quote about porn, where there's a whole big book, even in our library, about this case.
Yeah.
They watched hours of this stuff, which is pretty funny when you think about it.
Yeah.
And the way that they finally found a way to define porn, I know it when I see it.
Yeah.
And I think that comes into these movie ratings. It really is only in the eye of the beholder that these movies are rated PG-13 or R.
Yeah.
G and PG are pretty easy to they're kind of in the same category, but PG-13 R are kind of big leaps usually.
And they also released a report earlier, not too long ago, that gun violence is way up in movies, and yet all these movies are being rated PG-13. And yet movies are being rated R just for saying the F word once. Mm-hmm. And so people are saying, double standard? What's going on here? Because, I mean, is it because violence is becoming such a big part of our society? Henry?
Yeah, I mean, there's that old standard, A movie is rated R if it like shows a girl cut topless for a while or shows a person naked for a while. But it's really true that a lot of this violent stuff that even would have come out in the late 70s or the 80s, now coming out, in recent times, and I should have grouped 90s in that. I'm just, I'm a little blurred when it comes to time. But the fact of the matter is, we're having an increasing toleration for violence in our movies through a rating system. I don't think that's really matched by our toleration of things like sex and stuff like that.
Though, I think sex is also becoming like violence. We're becoming more and more tolerant of it. I feel. I mean, depending on how you look at it. I mean, there are some movies that get by. Maybe it's just because they slipped through or whatever. But there's movies.
I just think it's a lot easier to define, like, for a movie rating system, what is over the line sexually versus what are the other line with violence.
But I think the problem here is it's not sex. They don't make a movie R because of sex. They make it R because of nudity.
Yes.
I've seen
if that was the case, they would have made Titanic rated R.
I've seen a film of from Germany where people were walking around on a nude beach. It was rated R in the States when it was put over here because of that scene.
Yeah.
And it wasn't like sexual. It was a nudist beach. They were just hanging out like they do there.
Yeah, good point, Adam. Good.
I actually think that we're getting more uptight about nudity and sexuality, but we're loosening up towards violence.
Yeah, and that's a terrible thing, by the way.
Yeah.
This brings us into our next conversation.
Does it?
I think it depends how you look at it. I mean, violence. There's the need for effects, and there's like different kinds of CGI and practical effects. And sometimes you see movies with practical effects get a harsher rating because they look more real. But that's not the conversation I'm looking at here. It's what I'm trying to get at is what's better, CGI or practical effects? Maybe I should just throw it out there. I know. I'm trying to stop myself before I ramble.
Yeah, we could have talked about more about ratings, but I guess we can move on to this. I don't think there's any doubt in my mind, and I want to really come back to this and hear you guys' thoughts before I continue on a little bit. But I'm a big supporter of practical effects. I may have brought this up. I don't know. It was on Geek Talk last week, but just the amount of practical effects in Indiana Jones, Raiders of the Lost Ark, is just so phenomenal. Think about those sets, the snakes, that scene where he is fighting that big beefy Nazi in front of that plane. That plane doesn't exist. That's nowhere. I mean, it was a prototype in history that Spielberg apparently, or the design team, dug up, and then they made it into a prop. But that's like a prop, and that blows my mind. And that continues through all three of the Indiana Jones movies. And you want to look at Star Wars. I mean, think about those the planes, and not the planes. The X fighters, the
TIE fighters,
the X-wings, the TIE fighters, the Death Star. That's all real effects. Think about it. The one of the probably top 10 favorite moments in history for me is obviously right after the crawl in A New Hope. When the two ships fly over, and just knowing that you're looking at something real, and you don't have to check yourself and say this is CGI. Look at Star Wars Episode 3, the space battle. That would make my top 4,000 favorite scenes. But just because you look at that scene with that ship fly over and it gives you shivers, just like I know everyone who's ever seen that movie for the first time has gotten that feeling. And just knowing they are real, it just feels so good. And I want to come back and talk about some movies that I've seen that have done practical effects really well recently.
It should also be noted that a lot of the movies, the CGI, don't hold up well on Blu-ray. I mean, they really don't. I mean, The Matrix... even those Disney movies from the 90s that use CGI. I mean, my God, Flubber. I watched Flubber the other day. I was like, that is very poor
I watch
CGI.
Flubber every day.
But anyways, but one of the biggest movies I've seen, I rewatched. I saw it in IMAX when they re-released it, and I thought the practical effects were amazing. They really hold up after 20 years, is Jurassic Park. The dinosaurs were real, and they used some CGI puppetry at times, but even that, it looked extremely real, and I think it holds up very well. That's another thing. I think that's a good thing about practical versus CGI, is because what if they want a movie to hold up for, say, 20, 30, 50 years? I mean, it's going to... CGI nowadays, you're looking at them, and you're like, from the 80s... You're thinking to myself, why the hell did they even do this?
I always lean towards practical effects, but only when it's practical. Meaning, the way they did it in Iron Man or Lord of the Rings, where you have, for Iron Man, you had the real suit. He actually walked around in the real suit. But where it was CGI was appropriate, they did it when they could. Same thing with Lord of the Rings. They built Helm's Deep. They built Rivendell. And they even did this with The Hobbit too. And then but when it came down to making larger armies and things like that. So I guess what I'm saying is I like CGI as an addition to practical effects, but not necessarily the sole thing.
Yeah, I totally want to... I was going to mention Lord of the Rings, about a film that blends CGI and real practical effects so well. Another film I really wanted to bring up. If neither of you guys have seen this film, you got to see it. One of the greatest science fiction films to come out maybe in 5 years, and that's Moon.
I've been wanting to see it.
If you guys haven't, you have to see Moon. It's directed by David Bowie's son, by the way, just a side note.
He also directed Source Code.
Moon is just a testament. I mean, it's not extraordinarily heavy on practical effects, but there's this moon rover that he drives around, and it's on the moon surface, and that's all done with a model. And it just shocked me watching this. I recognized it was a model, and it felt so good to see that on the screen. And the best part about Moon, just kind of a side note here, is Moon's a great story within itself. There's so much good stuff in it. It's a genuinely great science fiction film. But just the fact that there was a simple nod to practical model effects felt so good. Now I want to see is I miss Ray Harryhausen giant claymation monsters.
Yeah.
And the god. I love practical effects. There's no way about it. I don't even care if it looks cheesy because I grew up on that stuff. I grew up on Ray Harryhausen and the Godzilla films where the effects were just drawn in afterwards. Little and I can stomach that. Now I really like what you said. CGI doesn't look as good. I totally agree with that.
It doesn't age well.
I went
it
into.
depends. I mean, if you, I'm sorry to interrupt. When you say CGI doesn't age well, there are very few exceptions to that. Avatar. I mean, the
It will.
CG,
It will age.
It will.
There's no doubt in my mind.
We'll have to see in 5-10 years.
Give it 3 years. I'm telling you.
Yeah,
it will age horribly.
Avatar did set up the benchmark high for the technology, but there's no doubt in my mind that it'll be reached.
Yeah.
A movie that really shocked me when I saw it on Blu-ray was Pirates of the Caribbean: Dead Man's Test.
Oh, we were talking about this earlier.
Yeah, the scene where Johnny Depp's character, Captain Jack Sparrow, is fighting the Kraken. And, it's a great scene, really cool part of the film where, he's dives into it. Just the effects for the Kraken, which when I saw it, I was impressed for. They look so bad. The motion was so wrong with this high definition Blu-ray DVD. And in that moment, I realized that, CGI is just a dangerous tool.
Adam wants to get something in here.
The other thing, too, that I noticed is, first off, amazing movie on Blu-ray, but there is one scene that just, you're like, okay. And that would be Gladiator.
Oh, yeah.
Gladiator looks incredible on Blu-ray.
Ridley Scott is my boy.
Mine, too. But at the same time...
I just want to... Since you mentioned Ridley Scott, did you see The Counselor yet?
No.
Okay, don't. All right.
But the scene where he's fighting the tiger...
Yes.
Or the lion or whatever. When you watch that on Blu-ray without the sort of film grain on it, it looks totally fake. It ages well when it's not Blu-ray, but when you look at a Blu-ray, you're just like, this looks terrible. It looks horrible.
But speaking of Ridley Scott, he also ushered in. I mean, he was one of the big users of practical effects. He still is. I mean, he used some practical effects on Prometheus. I mean, though he did go mainly all CGI.
I was actually thinking about that because one thing I did dislike about, a lot of people hate Prometheus. And I don't hate it as much as a lot of people, but the old man makeup on Wayland was so damn bad. And I've noticed that there's a lot of bad makeup jobs recently. Namely, Cloud Atlas. They went too far with that makeup, the makeup for the cast and characters, and it threw me off of the experience and probably hurt me appreciating that film.
I mean, see, personally, I appreciate... I don't want to go into a huge conversation, but I just want to say, personally, that was my favorite movie of 2012. I mean, personally.
I thought it was pretentious.
I mean, yeah, I agree, though.
What was?
Cloud Atlas.
Cloud Atlas? I didn't see it, and I wasn't sure how I felt about it.
I have it on Blu-ray. You should watch it.
I'll check it.
But,
there are better films.
But some of the best CGI... not CGI... movies with practical effects are classics today. I mean, we have Alien, we have Indiana Jones,
Blade Runner,
Star Wars, the original Star Trek movies.
I mean, think about even
Wrath of
Apocalypse Now. Think about all those explosions were real military explosives.
Well, let me just say this. What I personally think is the movie with the greatest practical effects of all time. You guys may disagree. 2001: A Space Odyssey.
Duh.
Holy crap!
I mean, Stanley Kubrick is...
Evil genius.
He's still God after him being gone for all these years. I mean, he's still the one people look to him.
Although not my favorite, I will agree that just as far as set design, the rotating spaceship is one of the most genius set creations of all time.
Yeah. I mean, he was a big user of practical effects. I mean, The Shining still freaks me the hell out today.
Yeah.
But
where's the movie magic is the theme of all this. So basically, to summarize our conversation, we love practical effects. We want to see more of them. We understand their limitations both physically and financially. However, CGI is too much of a crutch.
Yeah.
And I'm very excited that some movies that are in production right now are very practical effect heavy. I mean, Spielberg, for the new Jurassic Park movie, they're going to use practical effects, which gets me excited because they're not going to use CGI. They're going to probably use some CGI trickery. Don't get me wrong, but
Trickery.
trickery.
Cheap,
But
cheap. I'm a chick.
don't get me wrong. I think it's going to be amazing that they're using practical effects, and I think that if they're going to make movies, try to use practical effects as much as possible because that's pretty much like, to me, it's like the core of film.
I'll say it. If I saw outstanding practical effects on a movie billing, it would make me want to go see it more. And as a consumer, like, I wish some movie executives would realize that, because I'm pretty certain that there are many people who are of like mind of us. I mean, there's probably the majority who don't care either way, but these people who have had time to think about it, I think practical effects could make a comeback at any time. I want to talk about. No, I don't. You want to talk about the PlayStation 4.
Yes.
How about them apples, son?
Okay, so I waited in line for 13 hours because I didn't trust. I didn't trust Best Buy with my pre-orders, and I was glad I didn't.
Can I mention something?
Yes.
I once did not stand in line for 13 hours to see Daniel Tosh. So the fact that you're willing to wait 13 hours to get the PlayStation 4 speaks heavily of you. I only waited 4 hours.
See, the thing is, I didn't trust Best Buy with my pre-order. I mean, they have a bad rep with pre-orders. But the only reason I pre-ordered there is because I only had $25 to put down, and I really wanted to put the bare minimum down because that's all I could afford, and I wanted to make sure I could get one. And when I arrived at the store, they didn't separate the pre-orders with the people that didn't pre-order. The only thing they separated were online orders. So, and they had names on the online orders, which really pissed me off because I'm looking at the list, I'm looking at all these people. There were some pre-orders that showed up right when they were actually bringing people in that didn't pre-order, and I'm thinking, I feel sorry for you if you might not get a console. So I'm glad I waited, but I was also the first one in, the first one out, and people were cheering me on. It was amazing. It felt good. But so far, I am I'm really, really liking it. I mean, I wrote an article for the school paper. You should read it.
The Snapper. As we say.
I write movie reviews and video game reviews and whatnot for the school paper where we go. And personally, I think there are a few things I wish they could work out, like the whole the headset issue. But
there's a headset issue.
Well, here's the thing: they don't take Bluetooth headsets yet.
Oh, okay.
As soon as they do, I think you can use the Pulse headset, and that's it right now.
Well,
but they're going to add more. Because I want to get I can't afford a Pulse headset, and the mono headset that they use, I can't use for commentating a live stream. So I can only use it for online play, which kind of sucks.
How is that headset? I'm really curious. How is that headset?
It holds up it holds up pretty well. I think there's I haven't tried it, but there's this little plug-in where you can put in other headphones in.
That's cool.
So you can put in your iPhone headphones or something.
Cool.
So if you want to listen through your but I haven't really tried it out. That might not be the case, but it might even just look because of the design. But I mean, the games are great. I think personally my favorite is the PlayStation Plus game Resogun. Even though I didn't pay for it, it's highly addicting and super fun. It's like Space Invaders on steroids. Killzone Shadowfall is a great sequel to start off with the play.
Is that 2 games?
No. The school paper actually wrote it. I thought it was a grammatical error and separated it as 2 games.
Shadow and Fall?
No, they put Killzone and Shadowfall as 2 separate titles. So I was like, didn't you see the semicolon I put to make it look like it's a... But they must not.
Noobs.
Nope.
You can also put a regular colon there.
But also, for those who are wondering, because if they were to answer the question of that big, huge cliffhanger at the end of 3, of who actually came off that spaceship at the end after Hogan was destroyed, spoiler alerts, it's been 2 years, get over it. I think I was glad that they did it, and they were building up. When you collect audio logs throughout the game, they're building up this mystery about who this guy. There's he survived. You're who survived? And when they finally reveal it, you're like, he survived. Out of everyone that survived that planet, he survived. I'm not going to spoil it. I told Adam here.
I know.
Yeah, and the touchpad is in
Bane,
the
right?
It was Bane.
yeah. The touchpad is not a gimmick. It was fun. They also go like the Wii. They make it into a speaker.
Mm-hmm.
It's very nice addition, especially when you're playing Killzone. Also think of it as you're like because they don't have they have the start and then they have the pause but that other button on the DualShock 3 select button. Think of it as think of it as your select button to pull up a map.
Okay.
So depending what game you're playing, it could be you just tap it and it's a map.
Kind of like your back button on your standard Xbox 360.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, they have that. But the streaming, that's pretty fun. You guys should definitely check out me trying to play Knack, which is extremely frustrating. But it's a fun.
You don't have a knack for it?
Actually, I see what you did there, but no, I actually enjoy it. I took it as what it is. I don't think it should have been. I don't think it should have been critically panned as it did. I give it a 7 out of 10. Not a 5 out of 10. But as IGN gave it.
Ichigan.
Lego Marvel was not a exclusive, but it's fun.
Mm-hmm.
But
No.
right now I'm playing Contrast, which is an interesting indie game. I like the whole 1920s Paris setting. What the hell are you doing?
He's looking at his nose.
Yeah.
Anyways, well, but general consensus is if you're looking for a good, decent console, a nice setup, to start off the new era, go with PlayStation 4.
But if you're looking to drink the Kool-Aid, if you're one of the people in the world who love fun, who love entertainment,
And is looking for the next water cooler.
check out Xbox One dropping next week.
No. It's dropping tomorrow night at midnight.
Holler. So raise your hand if you're excited for the Xbox One.
Henry's just is the only one raising his
He's
hand.
raising both hands, so I guess that counts as 2.
Hey man, here's the
Otherwise,
thing.
crickets are chirping.
Yeah.
Microsoft is the greatest company that has ever lived.
So
They have never made a mistake, and they're
Never.
totally not a monopoly.
I'm noticing some
Red
sarcasm.
rings don't exist. It's Sony propaganda.
All right, so let's get down to the business to defeat hoo-ha, the Huns, being the PlayStation market here. I'm drawing a line. First off, let's point out the fact that Microsoft has never made a profit on any Xbox ever sold. The problem was the original Xbox didn't sell enough. They sold it at a loss. The Xbox 360 produced at a profit, made a loss because they had to repair it. So this is the point where Microsoft has to make or break their system. It's not economically bad not to make a profit. They're breaking even.
Right.
However, they have to think about, are we going to be able to do this forever? So the Xbox One is where they're putting all their chips in. They're saying, hey, we want to make the profit that the Wii made. We want to make the profit that PlayStation's made, our main competitor. Because I think at this point, Nintendo is kind of like that child that you bring to the pizza shop, and he's just over in the arcade.
What's
and
that
the
quote you
adults.
said last week?
Oh, that consoles are over. The Wii U become our new overlord. Yeah, well, he's over in the arcade while the adults, they're eating the pizza, And the pizza is about to be served tomorrow. And who's going to get the biggest slice will be decided in the coming weeks and the coming months. Let's just say Microsoft made major mistakes earlier in their marketing campaign. Huge mistakes. They didn't know what they were doing. And to be honest, there was a lot of speculation as to the idea that they were going to cut used games. And there was talk on both sides, PlayStation and for the Xbox. And I think what happened was Xbox got so entrenched with the idea that this was what was next that they did it. But they've since cut that. They've cut the total online thing, which probably hurt them a lot because I'm sure that for Microsoft's idea of what the entertainment system is going to look like, the idea of the online component is key. So the idea that they cut that and they made that sacrifice for the consumer perhaps means that Microsoft is listening, maybe. They're at least willing to change. They're not willing to bomb.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to talk about a little bit. I listened to your guys' PlayStation 3 thing, and I'll just come out of the closet now and say that I don't give a fuck about the Xbox or the PlayStation 3. I just want to play devil advocate here. But I did want to make this point. I don't think it's totally a bad idea to put the Kinect in the bundle. For this reason alone. I think, without criticizing you guys, I don't want to do that. Think of the Kinect. Microsoft isn't thinking of it as just a dilly-dally little like add-on to your Xbox. They're thinking about it's part of the experience now. It's the motion controller. It's it's the DualShock of their console. They're committed to the Kinect, and putting it and making it part of the console bundle is it says to the programmers, it says, hey man, if you want to build games, every game for the Xbox One can incorporate the Kinect. Every consumer can use the Kinect now. It is part of the system. It's not an add-on. Mm-hmm. It's not an add-on. So by saying that, they're making a statement that they are committed towards this hardware, and it's part of their console. It's not an add-on. It's not the iToy. It's not the PlayStation camera.
I got to interrupt here. The motion gaming thing with the whole Kinect, the PS4's DualShock controller does the motion gaming without a camera. I mean, if they want to do something like that, plus. But the camera
is important. I mean, you can do more than motion with the control, with the camera.
But the camera, mainly. But here's the thing: people are buying the camera because the way that Sony did it, their business model, they're actually selling the camera cheaper if they sold it with a bundle. If they sold it with a bundle, they're selling it $40 cheaper than they would have if they sold it with a bundle. Because if the bundle, they would have been selling the PS4 for $500.
But now they're not ensuring that every single person who owns a PlayStation 3 has a camera. They don't accept that as part of the PlayStation experience. It's just an add-on.
They do like the idea of the PlayStation camera, and they defend the PlayStation camera. But here's the thing: their argument is they don't want to force people on something that they don't want to do. I understand where Microsoft is coming from.
Well, what if people didn't want to use the Wii motion controller?
Well, then they shouldn't buy a Wii. They shouldn't have to buy a Wii. That's the point of the Wii, though. The point of an Xbox and a PlayStation is to take a controller and just sit in front of the TV. I mean, that's what gaming is originally.
But okay, let's think about it this way. By making it part of the bundle, Microsoft is saying, "Hey, we're moving towards like the next step of gaming. We're ready to innovate it at the console level. Everyone's going to get it. So we're going to innovate with this, and we're going to add on to this technology. Continue. We're going to support it. We're going to continue it." And, I think that's important, and I think that's an important step towards the idea of virtual reality gaming, which is the point.
I understand what you're saying. Let me say one thing before I lay down and talk, is also that reviews are coming out for the Xbox One, and people are very bashing the Kinect, the functionality of the Kinect right now. If they were going to release a Kinect, they should have gotten it at least right. They should have at least had it function the way it's supposed to. Yet no, they are forcing people to buy a $100 peripheral that they might not even want in the first place, and it doesn't even freaking work. Adam,
I think you're both wrong.
Okay.
Here's why.
Yeah.
First off, this is not a problem of hardware, because really, when you go to the basis of your arguments, it's not hardware; it's marketing. The problem with the Xbox One is its marketing team. He's right. If they would have sold this at $400, and how much is the Kinect by itself? 60.
Yeah, it could be
60.
It could be. I mean, they could sell it for 60. I think they are making it for $30.
Let's give them this. Let's say 70. So they go above even. They get $10 for every one. If they sold it at $470, even though that's $30 off, I think that they would have a much better time with this. Having said that, though, Henry's right about motion gaming being the future. And the proof is in the DualShock controller. It has motion gaming in it. Okay. The PlayStation camera, the only reason that the PlayStation 4, Sony, originally was going to put the camera and bundle it with the PlayStation 4, and the only reason they did was not because they didn't want to force it on people, not for some moral reason of not wanting to force it on people. It was because they knew they could cut the price lower because then they could beat Xbox. That's the only reason. There's no sort of ethical thing behind this. It's profit.
I mean, I believe I'm not saying Henry's wrong with the future of motion gaming. I am expecting like virtual reality. Apparently Valve's meeting with Oculus Rift. I mean, they're looking into that. That just came out this week. But I think, yes, it's also part of profit. But I also think it also is for the gamer, because general consensus is people probably wouldn't have bought the console if it was $500. Yes. We have to wrap this up.
Yeah, I know. I just want to have my closing thoughts about this because I've been the main defender of the Xbox, and like I said before, I don't really like Microsoft as a whole, and I'm not buying either of the consoles. So I'm playing devil's advocate for a lot of this, but I do defend their market choice to put in the camera. I think that Xbox One, terrible name by the way, Xbone. I think the Xbone is going to come out swinging. It's going to get a lot of positive reviews for a lot of stuff it does, get some negative reviews, and overall I think it's going to start out in the market similar to the place where the PlayStation 3 started out in the market, where people were bashing the PlayStation 3 because,
$600.
It was $600, and, the game market early on was very shady, and I think that's what we're going to see with the Xbox One. I think that it's going to have people who go into it, people who love it, fanboys, all that stuff, and it's going to make a profit, but it's not really going to become a competitor with the PlayStation 4 until maybe, a year or two down the line, until they start really like playing with the price and figuring out how they can be competitive. So it's going to do well, but I don't think it's going to perform as well as the PlayStation 4, which has broken a record for
100 million consoles sold in 24 hours.
Right, exactly.
I'm curious to see. We'll find out tomorrow if that's going to work. I mean, if Microsoft could break that record, Black Friday is going to be a day to show how well the consoles sell.
But I'm also so curious by the end of the year and the next 2 years on, like, how many people are going to make that switch? Because I'm not going to make that switch. I have so many games to play in this generation that I think consumers may drag their feet.
Okay. One last thing that we have to really.
I think that this console war, as it is, we're not gonna know anything until Christmas of 2014.
I don't think
where
so.
we have substantial games coming out. We have the hype of E3. We're coming down from the hype of E3 and all the games coming out in fall that are now for completely next gen. You have a year to see what Microsoft is actually doing, if they have taken out DRM, if they have taken out Always Online, they're not bullshitting, or if they add it in later, even if Sony adds it in later. Because the thing is, it's not necessarily a bad thing, but like I said before, my final statement about this thing is, I really honestly don't think they care about the consumer. They don't know the consumer. They aren't the consumer. These are 40-year-old dudes who've been working at Sony for years. I mean, I just don't. I think that PlayStation, for the camera thing, I don't think they cared about the gamer. They saw an opportunity to win over Microsoft. Because Microsoft had already made their announcement, and they said, okay, we're just going to take ours out, $100 cheaper, we're good to go. So it's not, profit isn't a bad thing, to me at least, but to me it means it's solving a math problem. That's what they're doing.
All right, so we just had a huge, heated debate that I think went a little longer than we anticipated. So I want to end on this week they announced the VGAs, now redubbed the VGX. I don't know what, I guess, the VGAs now are going to be like, now not just trailers, but like interviews, stuff like that. It's like a mini E3 in one night. But they announced the nominees for like Game of the Year and all that. We have the list right here. This mainly because for me and Adam. Henry's played only a very few of these.
I've played 2 of the DLC and 1 of the strategy games.
All right, so we're going to pick off our choices.
Would you like me to go first, or would you like to roll?
We'll go down each category and give our choices when we get to it. So, Game of the Year, we have Bioshock Infinite, GTA 5, Super Mario World 3D World, The Last of Us, and Tomb Raider. Your choice.
Last of Us.
Personally, I would like The Last of Us, but I think the winner is going to be GTA 5. I think the fan base is bigger, and since everybody's going to be voting, I think it's going to be GTA 5. Unfortunately.
How about I read them and then you guys?
Yeah, let's do that.
Do it in an announcer voice.
Studio of the Year: Irrational Games, Naughty Dog, Rockstar North, The Fulbright Company.
I'm still between Naughty Dog or Rational. Naughty Dog, they've come out with some really good, like the one of the best games. I think personally the best game of this year. The Last of Us. They just announced Uncharted 4. We'll go in that next week, but in our last episode. But I think Naughty Dog is going to be game of the year. I mean, studio of the year.
Adam?
I'd vote for Naughty Dog.
I mean, but I think personally it'll probably go to Rockstar.
Nominees for Best Shooter: Battlefield 4, BioShock Infinite, Call of Duty Ghosts, Metro, Last Night.
Light.
BioShock Infinite. That's my choice.
BioShock Infinite, but Metro Last Light is extremely close.
I haven't played Metro Last Night,
fantastic.
but out of I've played only 3 of those. And
One of the most atmospheric, beautiful shooters I've ever played.
Just a question: do you need to play the previous Metro?
No.
Okay.
Not necessarily.
That's all I
Just,
really know.
if you need to, look up the story on Wikipedia.
Best Action Adventure Game nominees: Assassin's Creed 4, Black Flag, Grand Theft Auto 5, The Last of Us, Tomb Raider.
Your choice. Yeah, you go first.
Last of Us.
Personally, I'm actually going to go with GTA 5 on this one. I think, don't get me wrong, it's very close. It's very close for me, but I think the heist, I think the action for it being action, and it brings a nice, cool adventure.
But to me, the discovery of a
Cure.
post, humanity, civilization world, seeing landmarks that you know and having it overgrown, and on top of that, just dropping into a room full of clickers and shitting yourself because you're genuinely afraid. That, to me, is discovery and action.
All right.
At its best.
Best sports game: No One Gives a Fuck. Best independent game: Gone Home, Kentucky Route Zero, Papers, Please, The Stanley Parable.
Gone Home.
Papers, Please.
Have you played Gone Home?
Mm-hmm.
I think Gone Home is a...
Papers, Please is a weird kind of quirky choice for me, but it's weirdly addicting. I don't know. If you haven't played it, play it. The beta's free, I think. It's weirdly, it's amazing.
I think Dr. Buckmiller would like it.
Yeah.
Best RPG: Final Fantasy XIV, Realm Reborn, Fire Emblem Awakening, Ni no Kuya, Wrath of the Witch, Pokemon XY, Wrath of the Witch.
What? Okay. All right. Screw it. Your choice.
Ni no Kuni.
I think so too. I've only watched gameplay, but I think
It's a lot. The combat system is turn based, but it's different. It's interesting. It's a little more fluid. The art style, of course, you have the guy. I lost his name. I forget. The guy who did Ponyo. The guy who did all these beautiful animes, doing the art for it.
Anime.
Story's amazing. It's just great.
Best fighting game: Drive Kick,
dive kick.
Dive Kick, Injustice, Gods Among Us, Killer Instincts, Tekken Revolution.
Injustice.
Out of those choices, Injustice.
I played some Killer Instinct. I found a demo box at Best Buy, and I found Tekken. I mean, it to be a really fun game, but I think Injustice is better.
Best driving game: Do we give a fuck?
Adam?
I don't really.
No.
Best DLC: Borderlands 2, Tiny Tina's Assault on Dragon Keep, Dishonored, The Knife of Dunwall, Far Cry 3, Blood Dragon, Mass Effect 3, Citadel. I wanna say Far Cry 3, Blood Dragon because it's cool as hell.
Me?
General consensus here for me and Henry.
I did play Mass Effect 3, Citadel 2, and it was.
Knife of Dunwall.
Knife of Dunwall.
It's a fantastically Dishonored is a fantastically underrated game. In
I
my
couldn't
opinion.
get into it, but I enjoyed it.
It's like Thief. I love Thief.
All right.
Best Xbox game: BioShock Infinite, Brothers: A Tale of Two Sons, Grand Theft Auto 5, Tomb Raider,
I don't really give a shit.
Brothers: A Tale of Two Sons.
The Kinect. Best PlayStation game: Grand Theft Auto 5,
Last of Us.
Last of
Ramen
Us.
Legends, The Last of Us, Tomb Raider. The best Nintendo game. The best PC game.
No, I'm gonna hear this.
No, let's do this. Let's do
The
this.
best Nintendo game: Pikmin Trace, Ramen Legends, Superman 3D, World, The Wonderful 101.
Me first.
Rayman. Yeah.
Rayman.
Rayman. Yeah, general
Legends
consensus.
is amazing.
Yep.
All right.
Best PC game:
Battlefield 4. Go home. Papers, please. The Stanley Parable.
I haven't played Battlefield 4 on PC, so I'm going to have to go with Gone Home.
I have Battlefield 4 all the freaking way. Holy crap.
Best handheld game.
No. Best handheld game. Animal Crossing New Leaf. Pokemon X/Y. Tearaway. The Legend of Zelda, A Link Between Worlds.
Tearaway.
Tearaway was amazing. I played it.
Yeah, I think Santa Monica did very well in that game. We'll skip voice actor and best voice actor, but go to casual game.
Best casual game. Animal Crossing A New Leaf. Disney Infinity. Plants and Zombies 2. It's About Time. Skylanders Swap Force.
Plants vs. Zombies 2.
Yeah, I like Disney Infinity because
It's pretty cool. I mean, I like how innovative it is. I'm really serious. I think it's kind of cool. I mean, me as a kid, I would love to play that.
But also, it's kind of just a rip-off of Bioshock Infinite.
What?
Okay, soundtrack.
Best soundtrack. Bioshock Infinite. Grand Theft Auto 5. No Cunhado. Wrath of the White Witch. The Last of Us.
Last of Us.
This one I'm split. Bioshock Infinite or The Last of Us. Bioshock Infinite I thought had a great soundtrack.
William Dafoe. Most anticipated game that will come out in the future someday, maybe. South Park.
Oh, God,
The
no.
Stick of Truth. Destiny. Watch Dogs. Titanfall. The Witcher 3. The Wild Hunt.
Okay, Henry, I think you can also answer this one. So, this we
I
can talk
want
about
to
it.
play The Witcher 3 because I love Witcher 1 and 2. I love that game. I think it
And
looks
the world's
really
going to be
good.
bigger.
The world's going to be bigger.
Dynamic.
He has a beard, and I'm excited.
Adam?
I'm cheating. It's a three-way tie. And believe it or not, Watch Dogs, The Witcher 3, and South Park, The Stick of Truth. They've been working on that game forever. I've read everything about it. It's going to be freaking awesome.
Well, personally, I would have said Watch Dogs, but that was last year, and I think it should have come out this year. But since that, I think that a title should go for another game, and I'm probably going to go with Destiny.
Destiny?
Yeah, Destiny.
Well-
I'm very excited for it. So, all right, that's all we have for today.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, thanks for sitting down, taking the time off of your busy schedule, your work and play dates, to spend some time with our quality assurance, 100% investable, 100% gooby, sugary, and sucrose heroes here at 123 Geek Talk. Stay tuned for your commercial break and your chance to win $35,000 of gooby juice.
Actually, I have a contest real quick. If you want to do it, The Dark Knight Rises. Say it.
Do you like The Dark Knight Rises
Trilogy.
trilogy? Do you love it more than your mother? Listen to our 10th episode to hear real trivia question asked by our team of panel of experts made up of the three of us to win The Dark Knight trilogy in stunning high-definition DVD.
No, actually, it's a ultraviolet copy, but okay.
Okay. Amen. Good night.